An epic battle is underway in a California courtroom. Epic Games is facing off against Apple in a case that could radically change the way apps are listed and sold. Not just in the App Store, but in the Google Play Store and pretty much wherever apps are sold and downloaded. Now, a little background on this. This goes back to last August when Epic updated Fortnite to let players make payments directly to Epic in the app. That ticked off Apple and Google, which take a commission of up to about 30% on digital sales. Both companies' terms of service prohibit direct payments, and they booted Fortnite from their stores. In the suit against Apple, Epic claims that Apple is a monopoly that is abusing its power by forcing developers to use its payment system. It's making a similar claim in a suit against Google as well. But this isn't necessarily a David versus Goliath story. Epic is no noob. They're valued at $29 billion. Now let's take a look at it with James Czerniawski as a tech policy analyst at the Libertas Institute, as well as a senior contributor to Young Voices. James, welcome to Right Now.
Thanks for having me, Stephen.
Well, thanks for coming on and breaking this down a little bit. Could you tell us what are the foundational arguments that both Epic and Apple are making in this case?
Sure. So for Epic, this case is all about alleging that that Google and Apple are acting in an anti-competitive manner, and they cite internal documents from Apple and from Google that indicate that they could be utilizing similar services like iMessage and certain things that are specific to Android, and make it easier to turn those features off, but they are not doing so, and that they are abusing their control of these app stores in order to extract monopoly rents out of Epic Games. But for Apple and for Google, they're just saying this is traditional business practices, and that Epic Games is acting as a malactor here. They are doing this intentionally. They have been trying to set up this conflict for a long time, and now that this is happening, this is going to be an interesting case to watch forward and see how the judge rules, because this is not necessarily something that's an uncommon practice when we see these fee sharing agreements that come out of these app stores.
Well, I don't find fee sharing necessarily offensive, but I think just as a user, I trust most things that are in the Apple iTunes store. Like when I know that something's in there, I just sort of have a feeling as a consumer that it's like been vetted, it's been cleared, it's not going to give my devices viruses. And I've heard a lot of arguments being made by Apple that like there's a safety and security element here too, that they're trying to maintain the integrity of their marketplace. And I buy that argument. I think that that makes a lot of sense. On the flip side of it, there is no other marketplace for me to get apps onto the phone, right? So like, isn't it actually kind of a monopoly situation?
Not necessarily. I would say that the reality is that Apple is just one of many products when it comes to a smartphone market. And the reality is that in the broader global market, Apple and iPhones are not actually the most popular smartphone being bought on the market right now. It's actually goods like Huawei and then Android that are more popular. So it's not even like we're talking about Apple having this extreme dominant market here. This is just a case of a company that is well known, well respected, and honestly, I think to some degree, Epic is not really in the business of wanting to pay more money to Apple and to Google, because one of the most rapidly growing industries right now is mobile gaming, and that means that as more users go and download Fortnite onto these platforms, that they are going to be paying more money to Apple and to Google by extension because of these fees that they have to pay for operating on the App Store.
Yeah.
So isn't it kind of like Fortnite kind of like wants just to do what it wants and doesn't want to have to like pay Apple to be in its store? So kind of like, I have a product, I want it to be on the shelves of Walmart, but like I don't want to have to pay to be there. Like, isn't that kind of what's happening here?
Do you have to pay to be on the shelves in Walmart though?
Well, I mean, like you have to. They get money when they sell your stuff. So yeah, but like so Apple shouldn't get money when it sells other people's stuff. Like that's kind of what's happening.
Well, don't forget too, like with your case of Walmart, companies do pay lots of money for where they actually place their product within the shelves, within aisles. So there is actually precedent of seeing companies pay money for prioritization or for being featured within a store in a particular manner. And the same thing happens with an app store. You're absolutely right, Shoshana, where this is just a case of a company that's trying to basically have it all. They want to be able to have access to these popular markets that these companies have built up over the course of years. And they don't want to go and have to pay the extreme prices, in their opinion, that these app stores charge. Now, it is worth noting that both Google and Apple have reduced those fees, especially in response to feedback from developers. So some of this problem may already be abated due to the lower fee structure that's going to be implemented moving forward.
I mean, they already make a ton of money. We mentioned in the lead up, like they're evaluated at close to $30 billion. I mean, is this purely like a matter of greed, or is there something that Epic Games, like they're really like hurting on their bottom line to actually be listed and pay this sort of bounty in the iTunes store?
I would say that it's not any different than the arrangement that they have for operating in other marketplaces. Fortnite is available on both the Xbox and PlayStation platforms as well. Those consoles have in-app store purchasing power, and they still have to go and pay a fee to those companies for listing their product on those stores. So it's not like they're paying anything different between the medium of a gaming console versus what they have on a on the mobile market, right? And the reality here is that I just think that it is primarily driven by greed. The company does want to maximize profits, and I'm all there for it, right? Like I want to see a gaming company do well with its products because then that means that that money can go to further improve the product and also introduce new things that gamers may want in the future. And that's totally understandable. But I do not think that it's appropriate that this company is sitting there and trying to force this conflict for no reason other than that they want to see more money in their pocket.
Yeah, it's been described as like a trap that they're kind of springing here because it's not
Yeah.
necessarily even about them and their business. It kind of seems to me like they're almost trolling in a way that they have a ideological grievance with the entire idea of sort of having to pay to be in the App Store where consumers are getting their apps, and they're trying to just like take on this fight on the behalf of a lot of different people who might feel that way in the developer space.
I'm not sure it's so much on behalf, though. It seems like it's kind of their own thing, and they're saying, "Hey, who else wants to join? Like anyone else like want a grievance with us?" Though I will say, I couldn't believe how big Epic Games was. Like I was honestly shocked by it because I'm like,
Hometown company, Cary area, North Carolina. They're hometown friends there.
I was like, who plays Fortnite? It's crazy to me that they're that big.
Everybody plays Fortnite. Have you ever talked to a child?
Wait, okay. So are kids playing Fortnite and just not telling me?
All kids are playing Fortnite, and,
I didn't know
you are
that.
not cool enough to talk about with it.
I'm old. Okay, well that cleared up one question I had. But yeah, like James, so it kind of moved on from like even though the origin was like Epic versus Apple and stuff, now it's kind of like versus Apple versus Google and like versus app stores. So how did that shift happen? Like when, is Epic not part of the conversation aside from the lawsuit when it comes to policy, or are they a big player in the policy too?
Well, I just think that this was a case where Epic had an opportunity to go and raise the profile and take advantage of what has ultimately been a multi-year degradation in terms of like big tech and the lash against technology companies. The reality is that they're actually not much different. They're just operating in a different medium, whereas Apple and Google are providing software and platforms. This company is electing to provide video games, and they're doing it at the best time too. Again, this industry is something that is rapidly growing. And during the COVID pandemic, it's grown at an exponential rate. Like they had to adjust their earnings many times as a result of the games that were being sold and all the consoles that were being sold. So they stand to make lots of money off of this. And that's why it's just like, I think that they're just taking advantage of the fact that everybody's going and harping on big tech right now. And they're just looking for a way to go and possibly leverage that system to their benefit.
Do you think this would have happened, though, if not for like the big tech panic? Like if that didn't happen, do you think this lawsuit would be happening?
No, I do think that, again, there's this opportunity where these companies see big tech companies under fire from all angles, and this is just another way for them to do so. Epic and many developers over the course of the years, as I said before, have had some issue with that 30% fee threshold. And that's why I think we saw Apple adjust its fee structure down as a result. And maybe that will go and solve some issues going forward. But we even know, based off of some limited data, that developers, to an extent, are also willing. They understand the benefits that they get from getting access to Apple's user market, to Android's user market. And they're willing to pay. It's just a matter as to what that number looks like. And I think that Epic, again, sprung this trap in order to raise the issue in a way that they could go and
and kind of going back to like the consumer preferences thing is, I mentioned like I'm an iPhone user, and I feel like it's a very curated experience. Apple is like very, very hands-on and brand and how the experience is going to be for users. Therefore, it's kind of limited in like what you can do on iPhones, whereas like an Android is a very blank slate. You can modify it, put in all sorts of apps. You can also destroy it with viruses very, very easily if you're not careful. And so like, I kind of feel like it is a little bit incumbent on Apple to protect in every single way its marketplace and the user experience and be able to wall it off in those ways. But just kind of going back to the point of greed, I mean, like Epic is not exactly clean, right? Like this is the company that did like a huge damage payout over loot llamas and loot boxes for all of their users. I mean, this is like a way in which gaming companies have always preyed on their users, turned them into casinos, and turned the entire gaming experience into gambling, which I have hated as a video gamer. I know you have, James.
Yeah, I've been gaming for well over 10 plus years, and to see this microtransactional kind of market emerge in the video game industry has been disappointing. And I think Epic saw what EA had been doing a few years back, and they got trashed for it. But Epic is just like, well, we're popular enough, we can probably get away with it. And that's why they wanted to have their own store to generate these sales. So that way they're not paying as many fees to these popular companies' app stores.
Yeah, so they
right?
can just continue to put out half-completed games like EA Games does with every Star Wars Battlefront property, where they're like, hey, we like finished 25% of the game. You can buy it and sign up right now. And if you have a deep credit card, you can keep buying yourself all the add-ons, and when we finish the game, you'll be the first in line to get it. It's really obscene, like the way that the gaming industry has gone, where they just prioritize the gamers who have the most money to spend, or maybe the closest and most accessible parent's credit card.
I will say,
power their characters.
Animal Crossing has been very good that way. I just do it largely for the memes, but they give you all these extras all the time. I haven't checked it in a while. I've been busy, but like they added like a swim thing, and it's a dumb little game, but like it's a dumb little game that gives you the add-ons for free, and like that's America right there. I think
that's socialism. Yeah, James. I mean, do you with the idea of microtransactions, because like this has kind of been one of the big trends in gaming for the past couple of years. This has also been looked at by Congress. Like they've been looking at whether or not this is something that needs to be regulated, outright banned, because it's a sort of predatory behavior on a very young user base, by and large. What do you want to see happen when it comes to microtransactions? Because I guess there's like nothing technically wrong about saying, well, if you pay $50, you can get enhanced armor and buffs for every gun that you use in the game. But at the same time, it's just like, it's toxic culturally.
No, you're absolutely right, Stephen. And honestly, I think that question surrounding microtransactions is a complicated one, because the reality is that those microtransactions do ultimately lead to revenue that those companies use to develop new products for their users that they want. But the problem, as you mentioned, is that the bulk of gamers are actually very young. Some of them are teenagers. They're relying on their parents. And that's a fair question as to how we want to go and address that. But, I think that it's worth noting that you can circumvent those kinds of age restrictions. I remember doing that all the time when I used to play on like addicted games, and I used to have like age restrictions, and I just lie about what year I was born in. So there's all kinds of things that you can do to circumvent the system. So I'm not sure what the exact answer is here, but I hope that as a community, the gaming developers can hopefully move past this and find other ways to get gamers the products they want without trying to fleece them of their money.
Well, hashtag free Fortnite, everybody. James, thanks so much for coming on today. It was nice to break this down with you.
Thanks for having me.
All right.